first I would like to call to the stand Elyse Craft, who is an author of Volume 1 and Volume 2 as well, and in Volume 2 she wrote about her grandparents' story. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Hi everybody. I'm just going to give a little bit of a background. My grandparents were just the most amazing people. They came from two different parts of Hungary. They met in New York City, right around here somewhere, and they just, fought really hard and did very hard work. They had a child early, and then they had my mother a lot later. And they just somehow, made their lives work. They did take a break from American life and took a 6-month trip to Hungary, and then Romania, I guess part of Romania, since Katrina had already happened, and that's what I wrote about in the book. The different ways that life can, things can change. And so the pictures that I just showed were my grandparents. This is the letters, some of the letters that I have found. I've had them for years, and I never knew anyone that could read them because of the ancient language, except for my friends over here. Helped me out tremendously. She's like, I have to read them. And I'm like, oh, read them. So the reason why people don't speak Hungarian is because it's really hard. Don't get me started on the pronouns. It's like, wow. So the picture, what's pictured here is the little house that was built on farmland in Secole, I don't know how to say that. It's now Sicu, Romania, and the house there is one of, they lived in a smaller house and they had farmland and a larger house that they rented and to other farmers, and then the cooperative came in the 60s and took it away, and they just had that little house, which I just found a cousin that still lives in it. Right? It's so crazy. Another volume, I see. Yeah, so these are my grandparents and my mother and my uncle, a war hero from World War II. He was the one that took the trip with my grandparents back to the old country. He was very young, so he didn't remember a whole lot about it. He was definitely better in Hungarian. But they always spoke Hungarian in front of us, and I started cracking the code a little bit. They moved in with us, and I was in kindergarten, and I had to go to speech because I used to say bottles and women. I used to want to talk like them because they really made me laugh. So there's this young older couple who's retired, and they have this 5-year-old who won't leave them alone, and that's me. I did a picture of them dancing at my mother's wedding, my parents' wedding, and my grandmother loved to dance. My grandfather said, okay. So these are good pictures. So the picture on the left I just received 4 weeks ago from the cousins that I found that live in Budapest. And so that's my grandmother on the left with her arm, she's behind my great-great-grandmother, Rosa, who is my Anastasia. She just disappeared. I don't know what happened to her. She did live, she was in the picture at the home that you saw. She was in the doorway. The last letter I have of her is 1928. And I don't really know what became of her. Her daughter that she lived with, my grandmother's older sister, she had 8 children. She had 5 with her first husband, and he passed away suddenly. And she married his brother, and she had 3 more. So there's all these children, and that's the ones I've been talking to in Budapest lately. The picture in the middle of Statue of Liberty is the trip home. They came in on December 26, 1923, and there was a big wreath. I finally saw this picture my whole life, and I was able to put the pieces together and figure out that's what that was from, because I know they didn't have a camera coming over. And that's my grandfather in Liverpool, I believe, before he came over in 1914.
And he also studied in Vienna, right?
Yes, so he left home early. He left home at 14 years old, and he went to study with a family friend in Vienna and Austria, and he came back with a confectioner, and that's what he did in England for a small amount of time. it made his emigration easier to go from Liverpool, so that's what he did. And that's the bakery. So I did ironically, born in the USA, bad. So the picture on the left is my little mommy. She was 2 or 3 years old, and their first, one of their first bakeries was in Astoria, which is right over the river, the East River, in Queens. And the picture in the middle is the two of them in the early 1940s, around wartime, World War II. They had like a real big following in their little town. They had moved from Queens now to Nassau County, which is further out, and actually south. And everybody remembered them. People still tell me that they remember my grandmother giving them, well, the kids a cookie. They all got a cookie. And they get to choose through the glass which one, because you wouldn't go touch. But she got it for you, you know? And the other one is also Astoria, with my uncle with the jughead hat. How cool is that? And my mother's wearing a bluebell dress. She loved that dress. She talked about it all the time. And that's a helper from the store. But yeah, baking's in my blood, and I have cookies for everybody. If these two people didn't meet when they did, and right around the corner somewhere, we wouldn't be eating cookies later. So I make up for it with butter and sugar and lots of love.
Thank you so much, Elyse. And I think we also need to share that Elyse has the most amazing pictures of all of our members. So the most beautiful, and she's so diligently trying to identify everyone, and she's making success, and she's finding relatives. So I think
I'm making people cry.
I
remember running around this house when I was a kid, and I'm like, tell me what was like inside, you know, because I've only seen the one picture.
Yeah.
And they're like, one cousin is second cousin, you know, pretty close. One's 80 and one's like 68.
Yeah, and
so they're like, oh, this is good for my brain. Okay.
Yeah, and I think your story shows that you should never give up, because there will be someone who can identify a document or a photo.
These pictures were all in an old suitcase, the one she came over in with her $60, you know. And I remember her saying that the people came over, like the men would come over, and then the family. My great-grandmother came over as a widow and brought her youngest with her, because the other two were, you know, one was in the war, World War I as a soldier, and the older one daughter had already had, you know, several children and was making a life there. So it was definitely different. I don't know how she did it. I followed her through the census, all the houses she lived in. But when my grandmother and grandfather got married, she went back to Europe and lived in Romania, now in Romania. And that's the story. That's all I have. But I'm going to keep looking.
Thank you so much, Elyse. Thank you.